going to go ahead and get right to starting on our 204. And the first thing we want to do is we actually have a bunch of easy things to do that we could screw up quickly actually. And that is we need some resource files that we're going to bring down into our assets folder, and we can go grab them. Let's bring them in a while. And what I'm going to do is right click on this and open it up by showing it in Explorer. And the reason that I'm going to do that is because I want to make sure that I can just get to it when I download those files. And the best way for me to do that is to just go ahead, open a window up with that in, so that I actually can just see that when I download. And I'm going to go ahead and hit a new window, and what I'm going to do there is bring that right into let's go this way, right into the downloads. That way they're open. I'll be able to see what I got. Let's go ahead and delete them out so we don't cause any confusion. Let's go ahead and hide all this. Oops. And there we go. So we have our clean directories that are open. Now we're going to go ahead, get out to our homework site, and we'll see that in our steps we actually have our site directions, which we can go ahead and open them up, and we can see what we're doing in our site directions. And I basically have it laid out step by step, and the first thing that we want to do is copy all these files down into our directory, because these files are essentially just different maintenance vendor files that we need, along with our app.js, which you can overwrite yours, and same with styles, just to play it safe. And where we get those files is right here, step 204, resources. If I click on that, we can see that it downloaded them, which means now I can go to those two folders that I open. I'm going to go ahead and open my assets folder. I'm going to extract this. Close that window. We have this here, step resources, assets. And honestly, what you can do is you can just drag the JS in there, drag the CSS in there, and we'll go ahead and replace the two files. They're just files that we brought over from the previous project, so there's not too much new in them. And at this point we should be able to close it out. Let's get rid of that, and let's go and check in Atom and see, and we can actually see that we have a bunch of files. And so at this point I'm going to go ahead and just commit it, and added asset files in JS and CSS, and I'm going to commit that. That way they're out of the way, we know they're good, they're tucked away in there. And if we actually go out and we take a look at localhost right now, we can see what's going on. We can see that our styles have changed, we can see our menus a little screwed up, and that's okay because we haven't put all the functionality into it yet. The next thing we're going to do, based on what our directions tell us, is we're going to go ahead and we're going to update the header. We're going to start with by putting the start session at the very top of the page underneath the PHP. And the reason we're going to do that is because the header is pulled into everything, of course, and we want our session to start at every page, and we know that by putting it in the top it's going to begin with every page. So we're going to just come up here, we're going to paste that in there, we're going to hit save, and that will essentially start our session in our page, whether our page looks good or not. And we can test that by going and doing an inspect, I think. Well, it won't let me inspect. There we go. And we can go to application, and we can go to cookies and we can click on there and we can actually see that our XAMPP has started a PHP session for us, and we have that session cookie. That's good. So we know our session is kicking in there. And one way you can be absolutely certain is to go in there and highlight that and just delete, clear all your cookies, and then come out and refresh your page, and you'll see that it created a new session cookie for us. Excellent. Next thing you want to do is replace basically everything from the doc type down with the information that we have in here. And again, we're more focused on learning PHP, so we don't want to worry too much about the HTML. It's nice to see what's going on and see how it's going, but we'll go ahead and we'll copy that down. And if we start at the doc type and we bring ourselves down through, we're essentially just replacing everything. And what we're doing in here is we're extending the header a little bit. We're putting a we have our link there anyway. Our menuBuilder didn't change. What we're doing is just changing some of the structure. We're adding a main and a content div. We're opening them up for the page, as well as we're pulling in some of the assets that we added to the site. And these all help us because one of the things we really want is our site to be responsive, using Bootstrap, and being able to leverage some different cool effects through the animate and jQuery, things like that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to save that. At this point, I can close out my header. I've put in the session. I've done everything that I needed to do in there. So I can go ahead and close that out. And let's go peek at our site again. It's not going to be working as we want it to exactly, but it will be working a lot better. Now we can see our footer's kind of falling away because we didn't close those two new divs that we put in there. But we can also see that our menu's back in good shape and that we're actually, our links are working as they did before. So let's go check our next step. We're going to replace everything in our footer file because we're adding a lot of HTML content in there. Everything else is the same as it was in step 3 as far as PHP goes, and we're also adding some assets in there as well. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and stage that and updated header.inc.php, and I'm going to commit that. And the reason we do that is because we actually can go back and we can see our different changes and things like that. We can retrieve our different what's been going on if we have to fall backwards at all. All right. So we're changing our footer. We went, and what we're doing is we are basically replacing the entire footer with all of this. And the reason that the footer was looking so wonky there is we can see this closes, and we have some notes in here, so you can see that. You can see that we're leveraging Bootstrap columns. Additionally, you can see that we're pulling in some assets, some resource files. So a lot of copy and paste in this one. Well, it's all good. We'll go ahead and we'll put in, replace all that header content, and we can see that that's all updated. And if we hit save and we go out and check it, that should fix this problem that we're seeing. And it did. Give ourselves some style in here, and our links still work even though they don't look like they're going anywhere, which that's what we're after taking care of at this point. Awesome. So let's move on to our next. The next thing we want to do is, because of the fact you can see we're going to be adding page content, and we're actually adding a home page in there and to our content. And so the next thing that we want to do is we want to go ahead and we want to add a default home page into our config page. So we'll go ahead and we'll close our footer, footer.inc.php, updated, and I need to stage it. There we go. Now I can commit it. Awesome. We're headed into our config. In our config file, we wanted to go ahead and put our default home page in. So we can do that a while. And while we're in here, we're going to go ahead and update version 204. And we're going to save that. And we should come out and see a difference here. Where we can recognize the update is right down here in the version. And we can see that that version updated. So we're good there. That was a good update. And then what we want to do is actually update our content array. And rather than making you do that, I'm adding the content in here for you. And essentially all you have to do is copy this. Let's close our config. I'm going to go ahead and say updated config.inc.php. I need to stage it and commit it. And now we're going to go into our content. We can see our content array here as is, and we're just going to select that entire thing. And we're going to paste right over it. So at this point there's a potential issue. I'm not sure if it will error because we added the home page in. I think it will give us a link possibly. No, yes, it will at this point. It will give us a link. Let's see if I'm right. We can see that it gave us a home page link. And all of our links are working, but we really don't want that home page link up there. And so we're going to take care of that here in a minute. And the way that we're going to take care of that is with our menuBuilder. We're basically going to add in the functionality that says if base name, the value of the base name is not equal to home, put it up there. So let's go ahead and copy that, and you can see we're adding this line. Those are the two lines. We're just essentially not letting it build a list item. So let's close our content. Let's go ahead and stage that. Updated content array to include page content and home page. So let's commit that. Awesome. All right, so now we're going to go into our functions. This is where we start to do a little bit of the PHP work. And in our functions, what we said is we want to essentially add a condition in here that will check and see if, when it's looping through that content and grabbing those pages, we're telling it not to go after home, to anything else but home. And if I save that and I come out and I am correct, what should happen is that should disappear. And it has. It's that easy. Cool. What's our next step? Our next step is to add the get function, the get page function. Basically, what this function is going to do for us is we're going to, whenever that click happens, we're going to call this with whatever is being called. And if it's not being called with anything, it's actually going to go ahead and set the base page. We're going to check, so we're going to create a variable, and well, we're going to take this variable, carry it through down here, and we're going to say, hey, if the get parameter of PG is empty, is not empty, sorry, then get that, else get page. And there's a value on page because we put that constant variable in our config page of default page. So whatever we would set that variable to, if there were no get parameter up top, it would come in and use that as the default page. Then basically what we're doing is we're taking the object, and when we say we're taking the object, what that object is that we will, when we call this get function from the index page, we're going to tell it to use that content array, and that's what the object is. And we're going to say, when you loop through each one of those items, take that key and assign it the value of name, and take that the value of that key and assign it the value of whatever that value for that key is. When it comes through, just like we're looping up top, if base name is equal to page. So what we're looking for is that page that's being passed through. Then what we're asking it to do is go ahead and echo out a container with animated fade in on it, and we're putting the page name, because we're using that value in page name, inside of here. And then we're saying inside of here we want the value in the page content, which when we look at the array, that is in there. Else if it's not available, right, if that page is not available, then what we want to do is get page, and we want to send the value of child pages in there for page. So we're essentially doing kind of the same thing with recursion under the menu, except we're looping through it now to actually find specifically the name and the content of the page. If I click save and we go out and we actually check, nothing is going to happen at this point, because we have one last step that we have to do. We have to go into our index.php page, and we have to replace this code with the get page. Called it a get page function, and pass in the content. So we'll go ahead and I think what we'll do, instead of doing a commit right now, we'll just go ahead and we'll do the index page a while too. And essentially what we need to do is add that in there, hit save. We're passing in the content array, the pages level, when a page is called. And because we're calling the get page function, if you recall in the get page function, it actually checks the URL parameter up here. And that's where that PG is coming from. So at this point, if I go ahead, it should show us settings. And there we go, with a nice little animated effect. And if we go through, we now have this it seems as though we have Ajax going on. It's a nice feel for PHP, but we're not really doing any Ajax at this point. Awesome. So at this point, that wraps up our 204 step. We are going to do our updates. We can see it actually caused partial updates, and the reason that caused partial updates is because the Atom Remote FTP does not automatically push up new files, but it does push up files on save. So when we add files, it does not push them up, but when we save a file, it does. And so once we complete our production push, our page should look like this and be set to 204, and it should be super nice. So in the next video, we'll go ahead and we'll do our push in, our finish up our commits, and do our merge to master. See you in the next video.